While the decision was very obvious, it was very hard for me to make because, as I've mentioned earlier, there were so many things that was going on in my head. And making that one decision made me think of myself as an embarrassment, as a failure, as a fraud, and all those other things. Welcome to Spill the Creativity Podcast, the podcast where we will be having conversations with other creatives that will inspire us, keep us encouraged, and push us to reach our own goals. This is the place where we will be acknowledging the hard truths because while this path is fulfilling, the truth is there's no easy way to do things. It all takes hard work. We are going to be talking about the good and the bad about choosing a creative career. If you're looking for a cup of stimulation for creatives, a warm cup of tea in this otherwise bittersweet pursuit, then you're in the right place. So let's get that cup of tea and get on with the conversation. So this is supposed to be an audio journal entry. So just in case you didn't know, or I'm pretty sure that you did not know, that I also record myself having random reflections. Like instead of writing things down, sometimes my thoughts are going on in my head a little too fast. That sometimes I'd prefer to record myself whenever I have like downloads or like reflections happening in my head. For this episode, I want to share a recording from one of my reflections. And this is a little too intimate, I would say. If this is a little bit weird for you, that's fine. And I would also love to hear your feedback. If like the random audio reflections that I have is something that you'd also want to hear on the podcast. But yeah, so just a little bit of context. I recorded this right after my trip with my biz best friends. We went on a Thailand trip for fun. It was really bold of us to do that, if I may say that. Quite honestly, we've never really traveled elsewhere. We've only met in real life as a group twice. And then we were like, you know what, let's just book a Thailand trip and kind of just enjoy and do things and like have fun, basically. And it was a really fun trip. It was mostly tiring for me as an old woman. I remembered not going to the third day because I was so tired. But other than that, it was so fun. It was very fun. And while I was in there, I had a lot of realizations, and it was also really perfect because it was sort of like a mid-year ender or like a mid-year starter. It was like the end of the first half of the year and it was the beginning of the second half of the year. And during these kinds of seasons, we tend to be a little bit more introspective. And having spent a week with my friends, with my biz best friends, I ended up having a lot of realizations. Also, I spent another week meeting up with a lot of my other friends in the Luzon area. It was so fun. It was so tiring. It was so fulfilling. And yes, I guess that's the reason why I have this really random reflection that I am so excited to share with you. So here is me having an audio reflection one random night. So here we go. These are my major realizations for the second half of the year. The first 6 months of this year was dedicated to growing and scaling my business, to the point that it drove me to extreme tiredness. I would not say that it was burnout, but it's safe to say that it was pretty close to reaching that status. I remember starting this year with a battle cry close to like just go get it. And I tried so hard to embody that. And I said yes to a lot of things. I did a lot of projects which did not turn out so well. And, I committed to a lot of things. And okay, this is not something that I'm proud of for sure, but it is what it is. It is what happened. I guess I overbooked myself thinking that I still have the energy of a Gen Z, but I'm an old millennial and I just couldn't. I just couldn't handle. But yeah, I would not say that was like burnout, but I was pretty close to that. And I'm so happy and grateful that I was able to stop myself from reaching that point and was able to come to the realization that pursuing an agency model was apparently one of the shoulds that I still somehow subscribe to. In one of my podcast episodes, I talked about like the danger of the shoulds, like we are surrounded with so many shoulds. Sometimes we are not even sure that the things we want is still a should, or like sometimes we think that there is a certain path that we sort of have to follow, And I guess that is like a reminder that I always have to constantly remind myself that if there's anything good about being an entrepreneur is that we get to make our own path. But sometimes we just get so well, inspired is a good word. Yeah. Sometimes we get inspired by like the people around us and we kind of want the same thing and we kind of want to follow the same route. So I guess that's what happened to me. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, I would say. It's just that I realized that it just wasn't for me. And I feel like when I finally came into that realization, there were a lot of things that was going on in my head. One of them is shame because I was very vocal that that was what I wanted, only to figure out that I don't want it anymore. And a lot of that shame was also kind of related into like this sense of failure, like changing my mind after like spending time or like setting this goal kind of made me feel embarrassed that I'm not pursuing it anymore. And that because I'm not pursuing it anymore made me feel like a failure. And yeah, coming to terms with that realization was not easy. I was gaslighting myself the entire time, mostly because number one, I invested on a lot of resources to reach that goal. Number two, I spent a lot of time trying to embody that persona that I thought I wanted to be. And number three, I used a lot of mental and emotional energy to try to get there. But no matter how much I tried to stay in that lane and keep pushing for it, the resistance was just too strong until it came to a point where I could no longer just sweep things under the rug. Like, I just knew that this wasn't for me anymore. I could feel it emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Like it came to a point where I was doing my work and I just don't want to do it anymore. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. But yeah, coming to terms with that realization also made me think of that S Filipino word that I hate so much, sayang, or in English, a waste. But then again, walang sayang. Nothing was put to waste. Perhaps the universe had to make me go through all those things to make me get a feel of what it was I was trying to get myself into. Sort of like a trial period. And since I've experienced it firsthand, it would be much easier for me to make an empowered decision. Spoiler alert, it was nothing close to easy. While the decision was very obvious, it was very hard for me to make because, as I've mentioned earlier, there were so many things that was going on in my head. And making that one decision made me think of myself as an embarrassment, as a failure, as a fraud, and all those other things. But eventually, I had to give myself grace to change my mind and pursue something else, to pursue something that felt more aligned and felt more at peace to me. And at the back of my head, I kept saying, at least I tried, right? I mean, if there's like a consolation for this entire thing, it's that I tried. I didn't just, say something and then like kind of made the universe do whatever. I really did try. I invested in courses, I invested in people, I invested a bunch of my time trying to understand things, and yeah, it just was not meant to be. Ultimately, I was reminded that just because I changed my mind does not mean that I have failed. Changing your mind, choosing a decision is not equal to failure. I just simply made a new decision and it's okay. Okay, so that was the reflection of Tisha when she came back from her 2-week trip, seeing her friends and realizing that she wants a new direction for her business. And yeah, she sounds really emotional. And now that I'm kind of listening to it and editing this podcast, it makes me feel emotional as well. But things change, people change, our minds change. It's okay. Or maybe I'm just saying that to not make myself feel bad. But if there's anything that's constant, it's change. And really, it's okay. Ah, yeah. Honestly, I didn't know what I was going to feel when I was going to do this. I'm kind of second guessing if I should publish this because this is a little too intimate and I'm not sure if I want to admit this to the entire world or, let's be real, to whoever is just listening to this podcast. But I don't know. I guess the reason why I really wanted to share this is because we have 6 months left and it's never too late and it's never too early. And I guess we still have time. I mean, even if, like you don't make things happen for yourself after 6 months. Like it's not the end of the world. December or like the end of year is just another should, I would say. Like it's another should that you should accomplish things by December. You should accomplish things before the new year starts. Yeah, it's another should and it's fine. But if you really want to like turn things around for yourself, we have 6 more months. If that is your thing, if you want to do something before 2023 ends, you have 6 more months and it's never too late. It's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind. Once you've made the decision, it's fine. We just kind of like have to give ourselves accountability for making that decision. I've been saying this over and over again, but yeah, it's fine. It's like you and me giving each other the validation that we both need. But maybe that's what we all need, right? It's fine. We're good. We're all good. It's not the end of the world. We still have 6 months. Let's go. Let's do this. Thanks again for listening to Spill the Creativity podcast. If you like this episode, I would really appreciate it if you can give me a 5-star rating on Spotify and a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Or you can also take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at Spill the Creativity Podcast, and you can also try the special filters if you want. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and make sure to catch fresh drops every Thursday morning. Bye!